Hello, everybody. I want to talk about the noble pursuit today. Organizations are created for a number of reasons, often because a founder has identified a product or service that's not in the marketplace, and they want to create that aspect. They want to fill that need. And in the while, they're going to do something exciting with their time. Founding and running a business is certainly one of the most interesting adventures you can ever embark upon. I've had a business for over 20 years. It's nothing like getting up and working towards improving upon something that you're also going to get some rewards from. Hopefully you do something that you like. If you can spend your time doing everything that you like, can you imagine how much more happy you would be? My grandmother used to say, you have to have a reason to get up in the morning. She also said, do work worth doing. Those two aspects really form the basis of what I hope to do and what I hope to become. To have a reason to get up in the morning, but also to do something worthwhile. As an organization, we hope to do something worthwhile. And we're going to talk about what an organization can do to be a worthwhile organization that does more than just profit from the products or services that they sell. They also improve upon their community. Of course, if you improve upon the community, you have a chance of bettering the world. And there could be no better descriptions of a person's life than they did something that bettered the world in which we live. We'll start with a quote. We're only limited by the dream of a better world and our determination to make it come true. I follow this certainly weekly, if not daily. This thought about it's great to have a dream, but you got to be determined to achieve it. It's great to have the determination, but you got to know where to apply it. So much of what we want to accomplish comes down to this aspect of dreams and determination. And as you pursue a noble organization with noble ends, our hope is that you realize that you really can achieve nearly anything you want in life with the right kind of efforts and ambitions. But hopefully what you want to achieve is something that's going to benefit more than just yourself. That leads us to our agenda of today. We're going to talk about some key points, and that is in particular to organizations themselves. Then we're going to talk about profits and what are profits and why profits are good. This thought of take some and give some, we'll expand upon that a little bit more. And then lastly, we'll summarize what we mean by pursuing noble ambitions, with the hope that everybody who wants to start a business is going to pursue noble ambitions along their journeys. We'll start with key points about organizations, about employees within organizations. First, profits equals ability. Profits provide the ability to pursue noble ambitions. Profits are good. In fact, if you look at any organization today, from the federal government to the American Red Cross, they all exist because they take in one more penny than they spend. Of course, in the government, some governments can borrow money, others can't. Usually the federal government is the one we point to, that they can borrow money. So if they don't make enough money, they can borrow. They're one of the only entities that can do that, but even then, at some point, they're not going to be able to borrow anymore. There's countries throughout the world that have tried to follow that type of practice where they continually borrow. At some point, an individual thinks they're not going to get paid back and they're not going to loan any more money to that country. So in general, when we talk about profits equal the ability, if you want the ability to do something, you have to have profits in what you do. As an organization, that is a profit and loss statement. As an employee, that's a salary. We hope to have enough salary to pay for our expenses. Another point is this: ability equals desire. A good person with the ability provides the desire to pursue noble ambitions. That means that as an organization, we want profit so that it allows us to do more and better things. As an individual, or in this case, a founder or an executive of an organization, we want to be the type of person that when we have these profits, revenues, that we do something good with them as well. That does not mean that every penny that we make in an organization should therefore be distributed, but it just means that we really should have this desire to do something good with the money that we create. Margaret Thatcher, who was the Prime Minister of Great Britain for so many years, said something like, there's nothing wrong with making profits or making money. The problem is when you get nothing back from what you've gained. I'm paraphrasing there, but her point was profits are good, but it's even better what you can do with them. Third key point is this aspect about business and community. Business depends on communities to provide a fair business environment, employees, customers, and stable futures. This means that as an organization, we really should take care of the community in which we operate. This is getting to be a little bit more difficult in today's world. Why? It used to be that you used to grow or build a product or a service in a certain area, and then you sold in that area. It was a hometown small business. Now, just about anything that you make can be sold throughout the world. All you really need is a computer and ability to transport it. If you have those two aspects, then your community really is the world. A business, especially small business, can't figure out or can't determine how to better the entire world, but they can at least figure out something to improve. I have a saying that says, we can't do everything, but we can do something. In relation to the business, we have to recognize that we have a business because we have a community, and the community depends on the business as much as the business depends on the community. And that's what that last bullet means. The communities depend on business to provide jobs, taxes, businesses, buildings, and stable futures as well. Notice that both have this aspect of the stable future. So communities need business. And that's what's so distressing about some who think that business in general or management in general is not the most laudable type of profession. Without a business, many, if not most people, would be without a job. The government only provides jobs for 20% of the United States. And the money that they use to pay for those jobs comes from business. It comes from people who work. So, in the foundation of any country is this concept of a business. So, as much as businesses need to support communities, communities need to support businesses as well. So those are some key points that we look at that underpin what we're going to be talking about in relation to this aspect of a noble type of adventure. Profits. Contributors to profits. One aspect I'll talk about in relation to profits, I alluded to it earlier, but I want to make sure we have a very solid understanding of what we mean by profits. Profits, as I said, was bringing in one more penny than you spend. If you're the American Red Cross, if you're a school district, some may say that you're not a profit-oriented business. There's some truth to that. However, you are a revenue-generating business. If you don't have revenues, you certainly can't have expenses. You have nothing to spend. So just about any business that you're going to come against is going to have more revenues than expenses. So there's a number of areas that contribute to revenues, and those revenues turn into profits. For some who think that we're not a profit-generating business, we can always substitute this word on this slide to revenues. But there's 4 ways in which a company makes a profit. First is they have owners. Owners on any company that you have, there is an owner. It could be a stockholder, a principal stockholder. But there's somebody who owns more of that firm than somebody else. There's somebody who has a controlling interest in that organization. We call them owners. Those are the ones with the right ideas, who sacrifice, who take a risk and work hard. So when you start at how a person creates a business, a successful one in this case, they start with this grand idea. And then they have to sacrifice. What do we mean by sacrifice? You have to save money. You have to spend time on this idea. Then you have to take a risk. You have to implement the idea. Remember that concept of dreams and determination? Here's where that comes into play. And last but not least, you've got to work hard. I've said so many times in so many presentations, you will always be a success if you work hard. Maybe not in what you are doing or what you want to do, but you will be a success. There is very few people who work hard that are not a success at some point and in some way in their life. The second contributor to profits is employees. Those, which we call employees, are people who devote their time and energy to an organization with the hope of a more safe and secure present and future. It's becoming more difficult. The average employee is only in a firm about 4 years. In Saudi Arabia, it's about 2 years. So people aren't staying at organizations very long. Part of it is that the average organization is only in business about 10 years. The average small business fails within 5 years. Given all of these statistics, we can see that it is becoming more challenging to have a safe and secure future in your organization. And we are having to take care more of our own research and development, our own future, whether that's our salaries, whether it's retirement, whether it's healthcare. That's becoming more of the responsibility of the employee. However, we do hope that we find an organization that we can contribute to their success, and in turn, they reward us to some level and to some effect. Government. At times, when we hear the word government, we think not positively. However, government does contribute quite significantly to an organization's future. They can create a welcoming business environment. What is that? Low regulations, low taxes, a safe community, political support. One example, if you live in a community where it's not safe for people to walk down the street, they're less apt to go to a mall or a store. That's where the government can come into play. If you have low taxes or lower taxes, business tends to flow to those areas. Why is that? Because they can keep more of the money. That may seem to be a selfish aspect, which is, well, I'm going to go to a different city or a different state, one with lower taxes, so that I can keep more of the money. However, a couple things to think about. First is that person who started the business is trying to keep more money of the business that they created. Certainly nothing laudable about, that is detrimental about that. They're getting rewarded for their efforts. But also, some of that money is going to get reinvested in the business, research and development. So if you garner more revenues because less goes out in expenses, in taxes in this case, then you have more money to potentially invest in a future product or service. You also have more money to potentially invest in your employees. So just because some organization is looking to go to a lower tax state, our country, does not mean that that is necessarily an organization with nefarious aims. Last is the community. Communities, similar to government, communities provide good schools, they provide safe neighborhoods, they provide political and social support. People want to enjoy where they live. They want to feel part of the community. They want to feel emboldened with the community that they work in. They want to feel accepted, not just tolerated, but accepted. And they want to feel as if that community promotes their good fortune. A community that does that has areas where people can join with others in the pursuit of fun, are areas and communities that people want to join. Those with great park systems and recreation programs tend to excel. Those that have what I call opportunities for interactions, a plethora of social clubs, tend to do well. So when we look at profits, it's not just the owner that is a contributor to profits. There's three other areas that are important as well. As important, up for debate, but certainly important. And that is employees, the government, and also the community. It is in some ways a pie, a puzzle. All of these pieces have to work together so that in the end, the organization is successful, the government's successful, the community prospers, and of course, employees are rewarded as well. Profits are good. And we'll talk more about why profits are good in the next slide. But I want to talk about 4 things that profits allow us to do. Again, there's this thought that organizations, managers, are not as valued as they should be. There's certainly bad organizations. There's certainly bad organizations. Let's face it, there's bad employees as well. But profits are good. And profits are good because A, they give you opportunities. Profits can create monies to expand the business, to offer opportunities for promotions and more jobs. We want organizations to be profitable. We hope they do something good with that money, and we'll talk about that. But the hope is that organizations prosper. With some of those profits, they of course have to pay some tax. Business taxes support almost every aspect and thread of an organization and its community. Taxes for an organization allow that organization to live and operate in an area that's safe, where the roads are conducive to transporting goods, where there's clean water and clean air. And I know that's becoming more of an issue, and more monies is going to that. But all of those aspects benefit an organization, and it comes through taxes, and taxes come through profits. A continuation. No private and most public organizations can be sustained without more revenues than expenses. So if you want to continue an organization, and with that continuation also comes more safety and stability in relation to employment, then you have to have profits. And last but not least, potential. One of my favorite. Profits provide the potential to do something good. The potential to do something good. There was also a saying by one of the leaders who said that having the intent to do good is one thing. Having the ability to do good is another. And so there's people who want to do quite a substantial amount for their community, but they have no monies to do it. And so if you have the monies, then you can then marry that with the ambition or the intent, and that could happen. But intent without the ability is just a dream. And as you know, as we've talked about, dreams without determinations rarely are realized. So profits are good. But in relation to profits, it's often what you do with them. No one, I think, would believe that all profits should go to someone other than those who made them. The issue is what percentage should get divvied up. For instance, owners deserve in some way to share in the profits that their ideas, risk, sacrifice, and hard work created. They should have higher salaries, better homes, bigger homes, fancier cars, maybe travel to far-flung areas of the world. I don't think most people would disagree with that. The level, that may be up for debate. But if you think about it, before this person started a business, excuse me, there was nothing in relation to jobs, taxes, or anything of that nature. This person created that. Certainly they've had help, and we'll talk about that. But when we go to divvy up the pie, to cut a slice of the pie, most would say that person deserves that higher share, higher wedge of that pie. Employees too deserve to share in the profits. It came from their work, loyalty, and dedication. It's good to share those monies based on how much an employee contributed. Those in the beginning of the organization, when it maybe wasn't so easy and success may not have been assured, maybe they should receive more. People who came after the organization was a success, maybe they deserve less. Those are decisions that have to be made. But in some small way, they do have a right to share in the profits, especially as the organization grows and you rely, as an owner, on other people to help you achieve your ambitions. To not share those profits would not be appropriate. Finally, society deserves, again in some small way, some way, to share in the profits that the collective community helped create. And so, while we agree that all of these people should share, we may not agree to what level they should share. I would say that owners or those that have had the greatest responsibility in determining the profits probably should share the most, or at least get the largest share. Employees too should have some consequence of their efforts, and society, especially as the organization matures, should benefit as well. Very few organizations can survive over the long term if they don't have a community that's supportive of their efforts. I remember some years ago when I was studying organizations and wrote a book about it, one of the things I came up with was this statement that we should have profits with a purpose and capitalism with a conscience. We all know that we live in a capitalistic society in the United States. Basically means that there's this invisible hand that determines what is going to be produced and at what cost. And free enterprise is a word that we use quite a bit, which says that you're free to pursue any enterprise that you would like. Of course, you have some regulations and taxes, but the thought is that people should be left to their own imagination and own level of work to determine what they want to do and who they become. Those that want to sacrifice more, risk more, then they should have more of the rewards. That's where capitalism comes from. That's also where the profits come from. Profits with a purpose. We should advance our own interests as owners of an organization. But our own interests also includes the employees and community as well. Hopefully, we see that responsibility that we have, that we're grateful that others have helped us achieve our ambitions, and that we're generous in some way, in some form, with what we have accomplished. There's so many examples of people who have given back over the years from the successes that they've had. These are just some that I found that I thought were so meritorious, and it actually gives you a great sense of appreciation for not only what they do, but there's people out there that do this. They plant a tree for every watch that is sold. Every watch sold, they plant a tree. They've planted over 1 million trees. I imagine WeWood's founders have done quite well for themselves, but imagine giving something back like that. Tom's makes shoes. They give away a pair of shoes for every purchased pair. Free shoes. Every time you buy one of those shoes. Now, obviously, when I talk about this, people will say, well, they must charge more for the shoe that they do sell in order to pay for the shoe that they make. I assume that the profit is quite large for producing a pair of shoes. But instead of that money going to an owner or even to taxes, because you can write some of this off your taxes, or maybe their employees don't make as much as they could, but there's people throughout the world that are wearing shoes that they certainly couldn't afford simply because of the ambitions of those at Tom's Shoes. Saving elephants. Ivory Ella gives 10% of its profits to save the elephants. As an aside, when we talk about things about profits, it gets to be a bit challenging, even tricky, because profits often come after the owner makes their money, the employees make their money. There may not be as much money left over when you focus specifically on profits. That's why some organizations like WeWood and Tom's do a 1-for-1, which is doesn't matter how much profit we make, we're going to plant a tree for every watch that we sell. Amazon donates almost 1% of the price to the charity of your choice. That may not sound like a lot, but when you talk about the billions of dollars that's spent on Amazon, you see that can turn out to be quite a bit of money. Twice as Warm donates the exact item you purchased to a shelter. Every time that you buy something from Twice as Warm, they donate whatever you bought to some type of shelter. Smile Squared gives a toothbrush to a child for every one purchased. That can't cost too much. And also, don't you feel good about buying a toothbrush from Smile Squared, knowing that somebody else is also going to get a toothbrush as well? Same with Warby Parker. They give away a pair of eyeglasses for every purchased pair. Pretty nice. Again, the prices may be a bit higher, but it does make you feel better doing business with that organization, in that others are benefiting from what you pay for your product as well. Bombas, quite popular. They do a lot of advertising. They give a free pair of socks for everyone sold. They branched into other areas besides socks. They've given away over 11 million socks. And cleaning the planet. United by Blue, they remove 1 pound of trash from oceans for every product sold. And they've already removed 1.4 million pounds of trash already. That may be my favorite. Just that it's not necessarily a 1-for-1, and it's not necessarily related to what they do. So they're not making extra toothbrushes. They're not making extra glasses in an assembly line. They're actually going out there and removing trash for every product that is sold. Very impressive. And that leads us to our summary thought on profits. Hopefully, I've convinced you, or at least thought you're thinking more along the lines that profits are good. What you do with them is better. Profits are good. We should not put down or malign an organization that seeks profits. We should encourage them to do something. Make as much profit as you can, but encourage them to do something with it. Because what you do with them, again, is better. We hope to have good people that do good things in organizations. We hope that as they go up to the organization and they have more of an impact, a role in what the organization does with some of their revenues, profits, we hope they're good people of good character, that they are, what I say, is decent and honorable, that they tell the truth, they do what's right, and they always look for goodness and to pursue goodness in nearly everything that they do. Third is the concept that we must all give more than we can take. It's not enough to work at an organization and expect the organization to do something with their product or service. We, as employees in that organization, must do the same thing as well. We must give more than we take. That is what is meant by we all should pursue noble ambitions. Because though we can't do everything, we all can do something. And that is a statement that I try to remember on a daily basis. I can't do it all, but I can do something. I can't make everything better, but I can make this better. And if there's enough of us out there making this better, then collectively we can maybe make everything better. Thanks for listening to our presentation today. Hope everybody enjoys and has a great day.